But now Copilot is moving into all these other environments. So one of the other ones that is available to people is what's also known as Bing Chat or Edge Copilot. If you have any web browser, which I assume everybody does, you can go to Bing, and instead of the old search, you now see Bing Chat, and you can ask Bing Chat anything, like, will it rain today? And it will give me different kinds of answers. And somewhere here is going to be a chat. And, we can now get an answer like that. And let's just pick one of those. And you see that it comes up with an AI-driven response where it actually understands what I'm trying to do. And it then generates answers, and it comes back with this conversational piece of an answer. And I'm just going to stop it there in the middle of it. That's fine. But the other part of this is that if you are using the Edge browser, so Microsoft's version of Chrome, you now have this Bing Chat button up here. And that is a Copilot built right into the Edge browser. And it ties into the current page that's open. It also lets you chat independently. It lets you compose new things if you need to write something. But in here, you can go ahead and you can ask stuff. You can say, what do you know about Bill Gates? Answer as short as possible, so we don't sit here forever. And it's going to go ahead and it's going to search the web for interesting information. So it's a little bit different from, say, ChatGPT, who I'm sure most of you have probably played with. And it comes up with a meaningful answer that it composes right now as original new content based on current up-to-date information about Bill Gates. And so you have this Copilot built in here, and the exact answer doesn't matter so much, but you get the idea. We now have this, what's often referred to as a sidecar type of interface, which is, by the way, deceptively simple, but it's actually turning out to be pretty hard to build. And in this interface, in this sidecar, we can interact with our AI and get answers that are in many ways much more useful than you would have gotten in the past. And what I have now just naturally gone to using this sort of interface more than anything else. If I have a programming question, for instance, I just go in here and I would do things like, how do I initialize a date in JavaScript? And you see it even helps me type because that's AI driven as well. And it then comes up with a coding sample for JavaScript. Okay. And so that to me is a lot more useful than a lot of the searches we had in the past. So that is another Copilot, an early version of a Copilot that is available to you today. Okay, let's see, there's some questions online. What about the code that is suggested? Could it be proprietary code? What about the Samsung incident? Well, the Samsung incident is something that's become pretty famous at this point. So what happened is a lot of people go to chat.openai.com, which is kind of the root of a lot of this stuff. And so then you go in and you interact with OpenAI's ChatGPT. Is the simple way of saying this. There's a little more to it, but let's just go with that for now. And you can do things like paste source code or have it generate source code or paste in your code and ask it questions about it. Well, if you go to chat.openai.com, that content is not secure. It is expressly stated that the content you put into OpenAI's chat interface, not the SDK, I want to be very clear about that, but the chat interface, anything you put in there is going to be used for further training. So what happened is Samsung engineers did that. They kept pasting their code in, and the model got trained on that, and sooner or later, it started to spit out code that was very, very similar to Samsung's code. And everybody was very, very surprised. And I guess that's just kind of the growing pains when you use new technology like that. But do not do that. Do not put anything confidential into chat.openai.com. It's not a secret. It will be used like that. So use other alternatives, and then your code won't be ending up training other things. There's also another question here about quality and trust, and not in terms of trusting security-wise, but in terms of what is the answer I'm getting and is it likely right or wrong? That's how I take that question. Now, when you use just chat.openai.com, it's just trained on language, right? That's one of the things to keep in mind is when you use a large language model, it's all about language. That's why it's called a large language model. So it's essentially like training a toddler from age 0 to 100, basically, on the world's knowledge base about languages and all kinds of different languages and things that are published, and being able to talk intelligently about literature and just anything else that happened. And it's way beyond what a human can do because it just digests all that information and doesn't forget. But at the end of the day, it's just a language model. And what that means is it spits out statistically probable answers to what you're asking it. It's not even an answer, it's completing what you're saying. It's always adding one more word in a loop to what came before, and it's just statistics as such. And at some point, statistically, it's often just as likely to babble nonsense than to babble real things. And what it takes to prevent that is a few different things. It's grounding it in appropriate data, and it's also about checking what it says and curating that content. And chat.openai.com does none of those things, but other applications can. And I'll show you some examples of that here a little bit later. So the quality goes up considerably. The quality also goes up considerably depending on the model you use, but so does the price. So you have to pick and choose what models you use for what task. But yes, the quality does go up considerably is the short answer to that question. But just like humans, sometimes they're wrong. I think they're wrong less than humans. So it's a definite improvement. I guess some people say it's superhumanly intelligent in that sense. But yes, sometimes the answer is wrong.